Every negotiation is about information. In this podcast, we're going to go through all of the information and education you need to get deals done. In our previous episodes, we've talked about where to buy and how to find boom areas and the locations that you want to be looking at. We talked about how to find the specific property that's going to outperform the market itself. But now, how do you actually get a deal done? That's what we're going to go through. The reality is, the better prepared you are, the more educated you are, the more understanding you have about the process, the more likely it is you are going to beat off the competition and get deals done. If you're following this formula, you're likely going to be competing with some of the biggest and best buyer's agents in the country. And the reality is, they do this every single day en masse. You're going to be competing with them. So if you're going to be competing with them and you have zero understanding about the process, you're going to fail. That's just the reality of it. Agents are going to prefer them to you because they know what they're doing and a deal will get done with them. So with this podcast, by the end of it, I want you all to have a clear understanding of what you need to do beforehand and how to negotiate to make sure that the agents want to sell that property to you. Curtis, how are you?
Yeah, good. I'm excited for this one because this is like the difference between being an armchair expert about something and having all this cool knowledge to actually being the property investor with the portfolio, getting things over the line.
This one is heart goes pounding when you find that property, you find the deal that you want. It's the one. You've worked that bit out, or there's a handful, but this is your number one preference. The heart starts pounding. Getting a deal done is like exciting. It's enthralling, especially if you're doing the negotiation yourself. So this bit, I like as a property investor, I really, really enjoy it. The deal making component, and both on the buying and selling side, it's fun after a little while. So I think that's probably a healthy attitude to take into it. Have fun with it.
I think particularly if you're investing, like if it's an owner-occupied purchase, it's a little more emotional. But if you're investing, you can take a little bit of fun with it. You are essentially playing a game of numbers, and you can enjoy the process.
Yeah, 100%. Owner-occupied purchases can be far more emotional and very, very different in the bidding process. I can attest to that, having done it a couple times myself. But the investment ones are all about numbers. It's understanding that there's a good deal out there every single week. If you're an investor following this script, there's multiple good deals out there at exactly the same time. So, don't be too emotionally invested in the outcome. Stick to your numbers, stick to your preparation. That's the high level advice. But let's get into the specifics. How does one actually get ready? What's the first thing that they should do?
Yeah, so finances, getting those in order, having your pre-approval, your numbers in place, I think is key to start with. Like if you mentioned if you're looking in these areas that are hot markets, you've got a lot of competition. If you don't have your finances in order and you're that far behind the eight ball, you're so far down the list of, preferred bidders that you're really not going to get out of the gates.
That's true. So what can someone do when they're buying in an area that's really hot and they are looking at their finances? What conversations should they be having? Can you step it out for us? What does a buyer need to do? So let's use an example of someone buying in Townsville at the moment. That was our last case study example. Townsville, Rockhampton, Mackay, these are good data suburbs that tick the boxes from our previous podcast where you go into DSR ratios and stuff like that. Now, we're finding that our clients are competing against a lot of people at the moment in these areas because, everyone's looking in these investor locations. Perth is the obvious one as well. So in their negotiations, if they are stronger on finance, if they show more commitment on finance, if they go so far as I don't need a finance clause, it's going to make their bidding process better. They're going to become a more preferred bidder. So what are your thought processes behind that, and how can a broker and how can you, when you're working with our clients, how can you provide some insight to the buyers in these sort of circumstances?
Yeah, so I think there's two aspects I would probably point out. So one is you can go through the pre-approval process to actually have a bank review the information and essentially tick off the borrowing power side of things in advance. That's relatively standard process, but effectively essential, I think, for being a prepared purchaser. So that's one aspect. But then the other aspect is to run through some of the risks associated with the purchase and how you might mitigate them. So for example, if they're in really hot markets, potentially you might have some valuation issues.
Yes.
That's something that can pop up, right?
Seen that recently, right? We've seen that a couple times.
Yeah, it can happen.
Yep.
Sometimes there's more luck involved than any actual issue with the property. You get a valuer that's a bit conservative, or something gets triggered to a full valuation, not a contract to sell. Anyway, you can have valuation issues. So if you're running the numbers and being like, okay, what deposit percentages am I trying to put in? What flex do I have? So for example, if someone has their finance position only allows them to put a 12% deposit in, they've got less flexibility, less options than someone that is in a position to go, hey, I want to do a 12% deposit, but if push comes to shove and I need to switch to a 20% deposit, I can rearrange things to make that happen. So it's kind of running through those, what can go wrong, and if something does go wrong, how does it get solved? To see mainly red flags if there's a potential thing that can't get solved. Because that's when you have to be a little bit more careful as the buyer. If you've run through all the scenarios and you have solutions, even if they're not your favorite thing to do, then you can bid a little bit stronger and potentially go without the finance clause, which might give you the leg up over someone that hasn't effectively run through those scenarios and done that pre-planning.
100%. So the summary there is be in conversation with your broker and understand your options and your risk position to that financing arrangement. So, good example for us. We do 10s, 20, 30, 40, 50 applications every month. We see so many scenarios. We kind of like, how often is it that you don't know whether someone's going to get finance or not? Most of our clients that we work through, we kind of know they're going to get lending, and we kind of know that here's the group of lenders that suit. And we also know, hey, look, if it doesn't work out, here's plan B, C, D.
Exactly,
it's absolutely so rare. The fear that people have is, I'm not going to be able to get finance at all. It's really, really rare that someone's in that position where they go buy something and then they have no financing options. And that's often, if that does happen, it will be likely because of poor communication as well. Like, if someone's going to Liberty and that's their only option and they're going with a small deposit or some version of that and they have no lending options and they go and make an unconditional offer anyway.
Exactly,
without having conversations about what the backup options are, that could get you into a bit of trouble. But most borrowers will have lots of lending options out there, and that is your insurance, if that makes sense. Like, you have alternative solutions if plan A doesn't work. Do you have plan B, C, D, E? If you're covered there, have a conversation with your broker. Ideally, they've got a little bit of experience and knowledge there and can feel comfortable giving you that certainty. The more deals that they do, they'll have more certainty on that. So that really is the summary there. Get your finances in order. And if you can, ditch the finance clause.
Exactly, yeah. And if you've got plan B, plan C lined up and you're comfortable with what that would entail, that's what really should give you the confidence as a buyer to go, all right, I can go without finance. 100%. Like, I have 4 different ways to get this done. Sure, I have my preferred way to get it done, but I have 3 other ways that I'm comfortable going ahead with. So I can push hard, remove that clause from my offer to kind of give you the leg up.
I like it. You're giving people a leg up straight away. I can feel people's negotiation improving already, being like, I don't need that finance clause because my broker told me I'm good to go and I've tested my options. That's the level of certainty we like to provide. People in circumstances like this, we kind of back our word and I back our analysis and our experience and all the research that we do. Realistically, there's so much data, done so much upfront with loan applications. You can kind of tell the issue beforehand for the majority of applications. So, just work out where you stand with your broker, have that conversation, and then you're ready to go. So ditch that finance clause. The second point, and this one is the little secret gold dust that exists in the marketplace. So all these buyers agents out there that are buying in these locations, chasing the data, buying in these locations. Now, do they have people on the ground there? Are they like, just everywhere? Like, cool, I'm in Rockhampton today, McKay today, Perth the next day. Like, how do they make that happen? Like, some of these agents aren't, 50, 60, 70, 100 person businesses. What they're relying on, and this is a secret that you can use too, is they're relying on property managers on the ground to be the boots on the ground to go see that property and to go and act as your eyes and ears as well to work out if there's road noise and things like that on the ground and see if that property is rentable, if it's there, if it's what the photos present as, and do all of the on-the-ground due diligence for you. People are using property managers. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I think this is a good tip because it's not something that people immediately think of. They kind of think, okay, if I need someone to go look at something, it's, a buyer's agent is the person to get, or the only person I should be speaking to. But like you say, property managers have, some of the best localized knowledge and experience, street by street, suburb by suburb. They're the ones often living locally. They're renting properties out. They're managing properties in the area. So, they have a vast skill set that you can tap into.
For sure. The one thing I want to add to this conversation is kindness and being friendly goes a long way in the whole art of the deal in property. You're dealing with people. This isn't, watching Succession or, a fancy movie where you're negotiating a huge billion-dollar business deal. It's a simple property transaction. You're dealing with another human on the other side of it. So how do you get a property manager to go out there and look at a property for you? Simple pleases, thank yous, a little bit of kindness, showcasing that, hey, you're easy to work with and I want to work with you. The human skills, the interpersonal skills that people have, these take you a long way to actually getting things done. Going and picking up the phone, speaking to, 2 or 3 property managers in the area, just being kind to them and saying, hey, look, I'm in Sydney or I'm here. I need someone to be on the ground. If you go and do this for me, you'll obviously get our business. We intend on buying this area. It's an opportunity to be on the ground. And if you want to charge a little fee for your time, more than happy to pay that. Be respectful, be kind. Don't be too much of a cheapskate here. You're using people's time. But it can be significantly cheaper than, alternative arrangements. And you're doing it all yourself. And they represent you. You know that because they want to ensure that you buy a good property. They want to ensure that you have a good tenant profile. And they're going to be with you on an ongoing basis, kind of like a mortgage broker, because we get paid trail commissions. We're there taking care of relationships over a period of time rather than, hey, here's deal done, get out. That's more of a real estate agent thing. But the nature of how they're remunerated is there to be aligned with you and to be with you in the medium term too.
Yeah, and I think getting people to work with you, it's not really the most complicated thing. You just need to step out of your own shoes for like 2 seconds and be like, okay, if I was the property manager, who would I want to work with? And then you act in that way, be that person, and they will want to work with you. Same for, brokers, other professionals in the industry.
Love that.
Yeah, if you just think about it from the other side for a quick second, it won't take you too long to work out what kind of actions, kind of respect, how they want to be treated and what kind of customers they want to work with. And if you, just become that, you'll find all these people very, very willing to work with you and become your friends and help you through your journey rather than, just tell you they can't help you.
It's true. I love that advice in general. Just step out of your own head for a second and what you want and think about it from the other perspective and what they want. And, think about it yourself. Is it easier when someone says please and thank yous to you? Do you appreciate it? Does it help, make your interactions with people a little bit better? Use some humor if you can. I use that tactic a little bit. Friendliness, kindness, a little bit of humor. It helps you draw connections with people. And when people feel connected to people, then they're a lot more likely to go and, do you a favor a little bit and give you the honest advice that you're looking for. Just being someone good to work with, that goes a long way. So, the key reminder I'd have to people is, it's not about squeezing the lemon out of people here. That stuff's for movies. This is really just
or it's not a sustainable strategy. You might be able to do that for one purchase, but if you're trying to build a portfolio, if every relationship you have is transactional and you've squeezed for everything, then you're not going to be able to go back to people to get good advice. It's not. You might get one done, but you're not going to purchase property 2, 3, 4, 5 with the same team around you that gets you the best results.
Yeah, exactly. Look, there's no harm in negotiating hard, but that doesn't necessarily have to go mutually exclusive with being kind. You can be kind and negotiate hard as well. You can be friendly and negotiate hard as well. Being kind doesn't mean just give them everything they want. So let's be clear about that. Don't go and do that if people are confusing the two. Being kind is just, speaking to people with respect, basically. You can respectfully lowball someone with a very low, hard offer, but do it respectfully, and it's more likely to be heard and listened to and taken. If the circumstances suit that, then it can work. putting a little anecdote for us, COVID happened and we were buying in that month where March occurred, and one of our offers, I remember buying something for $800,000 at the time, and I pulled my offer, and I'm not buying it. Like, look what's happening. I'm scared. Just used every line there. I still wanted the deal though, right? So it was like a very respectful, open conversation about that. It wasn't, I'm pulling the offer. This is ridiculous. Let's terminate the relationship. It was a bit of kindness. The next week, it was only a couple of days later, actually. Times moved so quickly during COVID, during those months. The agent called me and said, would you, buy it for 700? I'm like, yes, yes, I would. Or some version of that. It was some conversation like that. I don't remember the specifics of it, but being open, kind, respectful can get results for you. And yes, that was squeezing, I would say. It was a tactic, but it's using the information of the day, the circumstances there around you to squeeze where appropriate. The reality is, some of the conversations we've talked about in the previous podcast, you're going to be everyone could do this research. If we're telling you this on an open podcast that 2,000 people listen to, a lot of people know it. And we're not the only ones saying it. There's plenty of other experts that are telling us this information. We know other parties, buyers agents, property experts, etc. There's thousands of people, tens of thousands of people that know this. So they're all going to be able to find this level of research, and the investor sort of centric spots, they're all going to be looking there. Exactly. Yep. So they're all following the data nowadays, and the data is just them following each other, driving the data, especially in small locations, right?
Yeah.
So just bear that in mind. You're probably going to be buying in hot locations. So, your ability to, do what I just said is probably a bit limited if that's where you're buying.
Yeah. But your ability to work with people and have people want to work with you is going to push you up the queue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Cool.
So let's jump on to the next one. This is an interesting one, and this is one I see you do a lot, build and pest reports.
Yeah. This is different depending on the state you purchase in. So if you're an investor buying in different locations, most of the time you get build and pest reports done in the contract as a clause in the contract.
Yep.
And this one's more okay generally. We find almost all contracts that we see interstate, in Queensland, Perth, most of them have build and pest clause in there. If you can shorten the time frame from 21 days to 7 days or even 5 days, that can really help your negotiation. So I said at the beginning, it's all about information. The starting point to information is working out, what does the vendor want? Every vendor is going to want a shorter build and pest clause. They don't want uncertainty. If you are signing a contract saying, let's get a deal done, they don't want uncertainty to that. If they're going to sign it, they're going to be like, is this deal closed? That's really what they want. They want it done and dusted. Almost every single vendor is going to be in that circumstance. If they're signing that contract with you, they want it certain. So squeezing time down for finance and build and pest, or even getting rid of them, as we just talked about in finance, provides that. That's that information game. What do they want? Certainty is something that they always want. Speed is something that they always want. And it's also what the agents want, who are the gatekeepers to all the transactions. So that is what you're trying to provide them. You'll need a build and pest, though, for most locations, especially if you're buying interstate and older property.
Yeah, so if you have a build and pest clause in the contract, how can you use that as effectively as a bit of a negotiating tactic, potentially?
Genius. I've just been on the other side of this. We sold something last week. Been on the other side of this. I understand it a little bit now from the vendor's perspective. So you get a build and pest report done, and you have a 7-day period to get that all sorted, some time period. And once you get that back, your build and pest, it's going to have issues there. Every house has some level of issues, right? Pick out the issues there, and if you can, get your builder, get the B&P person, the person you contract with, get them to put in a figure. Get them to say, it's going to cost you $6,000 to rectify. One of our deals recently, just sharing a story of a selling experience that I've just sold something a couple of weeks ago. The buyer did this, a brand new house as well, beautiful product. Go on our YouTube or our Instagram, you'll see a whole bunch of shorts that we did in there last week. This clever purchaser, got a very, very thorough build and pest person who just noted every tiny little thing that, most of it's completely unreasonable. The tops of doors, whether they're painted. Who gives a toss if the top of a door is painted? Like, realistically, the bottom side of a door. Like, who has ever looked underneath their door to see if it's painted or not? What a ridiculous thing. And being like, yeah, that's going to cost you $10,000 to fix. I want a $50,000 reduction. Be like, wow, that's a bit ridiculous. So, what you do here is you get a build and pass, get a good one, get someone who's a bit nasty working on your team to pick up every single issue. And then in the negotiation, while you're in calling off, ask the question. Go back to them and be like, here's a whole range of building and pest issues that we found. You don't need to fix it. Let's make it easy for you. I don't want to add trouble to your life. I don't want you to go through and do things. Why don't you just give me a $5,000 discount or a $6,000 discount? Or the builder's saying it's going to cost $15,000. I'll take a $12,000 discount. Use it and ask the question.
Yeah.
It could work for you. We see it a lot, right?
We do see it a lot. And it's, it's for a lot of buyers, I think it's probably a little bit of a bluff, but there's no harm in making it, if that makes sense. Because the seller is also, at that point, relatively committed. Like, they've signed the contract, they want it to close. Yeah, exactly. So you just basically throw it out there. It's like fishing. You just throw the line out there and see if you get a bite. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But worst case scenario, you're in the same position that you were previously anyway. So this is one where, as the buyer, you really don't have anything to lose by giving it a go and asking the question.
Yeah, exactly. If they say no, you still have the option of proceeding.
Exactly, at the same purchase price that you originally had anyway. So, yeah, you can't go backwards. You're just trying to see if there's the opportunity to get a little bit of a cookie on top.
Yep. So don't ask, don't get. That's another great negotiation tactic. Use it all the time. Ask questions and see where you stand a little bit in your negotiations. That helps. You need to ask questions and, put in an offer to actually get a result. Without that, you're not going to get the end outcome. So that's great advice. The last thing I've got here is contract reviews. So before you go and bid on something, get your solicitor to look at the contract and confirm it's all good, or whether you need to make any changes to that contract. Generally, you'll be focusing in on the terms like settlement dates, finance clause dates, build and pest clause dates, deposit terms, when they're paid. All of those things are the main sort of negotiation points. But also specifically check the special conditions of a contract. So I do this a lot for New South Wales contracts, for anything that I look at. Go through the special conditions, go through the title diagrams at the end. And we talked about all the development sort of stuff in the Alpha podcast. It's all in the contract of sales. You can go back to that podcast in terms of looking at specific things that you want to look at in the contract. But yeah, get your solicitor to review the contract before you start making offers, so that offer is a bit stronger. So you don't need to add in a subject to legal review clause, because adding in clauses here and there just makes your offer weaker and weaker.
Exactly, and this is something that you can, like you say, flush out before you kind of make your first offer, or you can use this as, when you're framing your offer to the agent, as if there's some issue in the contract or something that's been identified, you can be like, look, I'm offering this, and this is, part of the reason why I'm valuing the property at this level. But that's something you should be, it's very difficult to negotiate on that if you've already signed it, if that makes sense. Like the ship sailed, so to speak. So that's one of the things you want to be doing at the front end of the process.
Yep, great advice there. So let's get into the negotiation side of things now. So now we've done all the pre-work. We've checked out our contracts. We've had a conversation with the broker. We've put in the build and pest clause. We know exactly what we're going to do there. We have done everything that we need to. The property manager's gone there. I want to buy this property. You're now entering a negotiation. The best advice I have here is to make your intentions clear with the agent. Don't hide it. Don't hold everything back so the agent doesn't know that you're interested. Showcase to them that you are interested, that you want to buy the property, and be at the front of their mind when it comes to being the seller. You want to become the preferred buyer as much as possible, and that helps by having a relationship with the agent and having constant communication with them and expressing that you are interested and are you okay receiving an offer now, and can I go and purchase this? Being clear about your intentions helps get deals done, because the other person to it, the agent, knows that you actually want to buy it, and they are there working with you now to get a deal done.
Yeah, well, this is, I think, a perfect example where you step into their shoes for a second. Like, if you're about to make a bid, you're entering negotiations, what does the agent actually want? They want, I'd say, probably two things. They want the highest possible, sale price, obviously, but they also want to get a deal done.
Yes.
So if you're the buyer, you don't want to give away too much on the sale price side of things.
100%.
Because you've got opposite incentives there, but you also want to get a deal done. So that's where you can show the agent that you're someone that is going to get a deal done. You're trying to get a deal done.
Exactly.
And that is what's going to make you more attractive compared to other people that are holding back, if that makes sense, from the agent's perspective.
Exactly.
Because you're ticking one of the two boxes. And they kind of know that you're not going to come in with a blank check. But if you can tick the other box and they're like, all right, I'm speaking with someone and this guy, I'm pretty confident he's going to buy. If it's not with me, he's going to buy with someone else. He's he is serious about buying.
Yep.
You're already like in front of anyone that doesn't meet that threshold.
Exactly. And if you're buying something that's had 100 inquiries, man, these are people. They're not robots. It's not AI assessing all of these people, giving everyone a score straight away, being like probability of buy. There's none of that happening. Maybe not yet. Give it a few more years. Maybe that's going to come out. But none of that's happening. So people just remember who's front of mind. Like, we're like, that guy calls me every few days and he's friendly, nice to chat to. He asks about my day, or some version of that. He's going to remember you. He's going to help you buy that property, whether it's that one or another deal. He's going to work with you to get something done versus someone who puts an online inquiry and then throws it in an offer over email and has no phone conversations and has no relationship, has invested no time in that. That person can be forgotten. And you don't want to be forgotten here. You want to be the agent's preferred bidder. And the best way to do that is by developing a relationship, being in constant communication, and being available and present when an offer is ready to be heard.
Yeah.
That's one golden nugget that I can add in. I've recently just completed another deal, and this is how it went down. I wanted to buy something. I definitely wanted to buy this only thing. It goes back to the Alpha podcast, Sydney planning changes. It was the property. That's the deal I wanted. Now, I had gone and visited it 3 or 4 times. This goes against other advice that we mentioned. You actually need to see it. But this particular property, I'd gone and seen it 3 or 4 times. I really wanted it. The agent knew that I wanted it, but the agent also knew that, hey, look, it's a very popular property. A lot of people wanted this. R3 corner property next to stations, that sort of stock is very, very attractive at the moment in Sydney because of all the zoning changes happening. The presentation of that was done with them in a way where it was constantly in their mind, available to them, friendly with them, and I think I was pretty clearly the preferred bidder in this circumstance versus other people who I could see there just knocking, like negatively negging, is that the word?
Yeah.
Is that a word? Negging the property itself in front of them, being like, no, I don't want this. They were doing it to negotiate an outcome. But like, look around, there's 20 people at this open home. And, there's a lot of people like looking at it being like, hey, I really want this, whether, it's a home that I want to live in or a site. There's clearly demand for it. And it's in an area where there is a lot of demand for a product like this. So understand your negotiating position, understand the market, and understand the circumstances you're in. This is the information that was going through my mind when I was trying to pick up this deal. Obviously, I didn't want to pay much money. I wanted to pay as low as possible, and they wanted to sell as high as possible. But I can't control those things, and I can limit the control there, and those barriers exist. What I can do to help bridge those barriers is be that preferred bidder, be in constant communication. And then when the time came to strike, it was raining. This is what saved me. It began raining on the weekend of the final open before the auction date, or 2 weeks before the auction date, because there's a public holiday last weekend, and then it was raining the weekend before. Be like, this guy's been stuffed. He had a great open, and yes, he's got a dozen contracts out here, but it's been raining, and people don't want to go out when it's pouring, and there's a public holiday.
Yeah, they're
and then
away.
Then you've got the auction date being like, I knew that. I knew all of those things. When the rain came, I was like, there's some uncertainty here. There's going to be fewer people that rock up. All of the information the agent had at that point was, this is a popular property. It's working out. But I'm not really sure. There's a bunch of contracts out, and yeah, I should probably take it to auction, but I'm not really sure because of the unique factors of a public holiday and rain, and I'm in the final week. I'm in the final 10, 15. I'm in the home straight. So by being in constant communication, being clear, and then when the time came to strike, by constantly asking him, Are you available to take offers? Tell me if they'll take a pre-auction offer. Tell me when they want to hear it. They will tell you upfront. Every agent's going to do this in most circumstances upfront, being like, we're not looking to sell right now. It's the first week. We're gathering feedback. That's how it always starts in New South Wales. It's going to be like, hey, there's so many people here. We're gathering feedback. We don't have a price guide. We don't have any of this. You're going to be working with good agents that don't give you information, and you just got to appreciate that's their skill. So how do you go back? Be like, give them some information. Give them the information that you're interested. You're clear. If you want to neg the property, neg it in behind closed doors with your partner. You don't need to neg it in front of them. Show that you are serious. Show that you are willing to get a deal done. And then when the time comes to strike, this guy came to me Monday with like at 3 o'clock being like, I think the owner will hear an offer. Boom. Signed contract, 66W, all terms, done at 3:20, signed at 3:30, all done, closed. No time for competition. None. You can't open the door to the other 11 contract parties to be like, look, I've got a signed contract here. Can you beat it? I feel like the agent doesn't care. He's getting a 1% commission. It doesn't really matter if he gets another, couple percentage points in price. He just wants a deal done, and you've given it to him. Like exactly how they want it. Really quickly, you've shown that you're the preferred bidder, and you've used the circumstances around you to get a negotiation done. Our last few deals have all been like this, through being kind, through being present, through being available, clear communication, and just by being a good person to work with. And then when it comes to strike, getting the deal done very, very quickly and closing out all the windows of opportunity for everyone else. You ain't shopping my offer around. It's you sign here, you sign quickly. We're getting this done in no time. Present it like that. The agent is there. And then the vendor, the person on the other side, they're getting nervous. They're like, like I've got a big offer here. Do I want to go to auction? Am I sure? Am I not? Like they start doing a dance being like, I'll take it. Close enough, good enough. Let's get it done. That's how it can work. That's the whole dance explained out with a real life example, which was like my weekend a couple of weekends ago.
Yeah. And I think the key thing there is, there's going to be circumstances where the seller is not willing to sell for the price you're willing to buy. But the key thing is you want to be the first person they're talking to when the opportunity arises. Like that's the person that's got the best chance of getting it done. Exactly. And if you can position yourself to be that person, to be the first person the agent's hitting up when they are open to offers, like you're in the driving seat. Maybe a deal can get done, maybe it can't, depends, on the circumstances. But if you're not first in the queue, then like you're never even going to see these things, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Like you mentioned, there's probably a whole bunch of other bidders that had different strategies or might have been interested in putting in an offer. Like in this case, they don't even see it. It's just sold.
Yeah, exactly. And for most people listening to this and the whole series that we've created here, it's all about buying in hot areas or areas that are about to do really well. That's the layup to this podcast. That's the last three. So if you're in that circumstance, buying in these areas, you just got to understand those negotiating dynamics exist. So there's going to be other people buying, and realistically, you're going to be competing against some of the best buyers agents because that's what they're buying. This is where they're looking at. That's how we've formed our own research. It's by speaking to them, understanding them, looking at what they do. Doing all of those things means that you're competing with the best, and they have scale. They understand agents. They know what they're doing. You're on an uphill battle here a little bit. So all of this is to help close that for you. And the best way to close it is by being firm and clear and showcasing, I am ready. I'm going to buy this, and I'm going to make your life easy too. That is how you get deals done in hot markets where everyone is looking.
Yeah, like I'd say almost as a little bit of a summary, the thing you don't want to accommodate is price, right?
Yep.
Like as the buyer, my assumption would be that's the last thing you want to accommodate on.
Yes.
So try and accommodate everything else. Like be fast, don't have finance, like anything else you can accommodate that's not the purchase price, go out of your way to accommodate it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. That's really, really clever advice. One more thing that we're going to throw into the negotiation discussion, in the heat of the moment, set your value price, set your price up front. What I like to recommend to people is have 3 price points. So if you're buying at 400, you want to buy a $400,000 property, ballpark. Set 3 price points. A green level, I'm going to buy it for 380. Yay, hallelujah.
Yep.
Well under market value. Of course, you want to buy it at the green. Yes, I always get myself in that little discussion point where I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I get this at this price? That's how you're going to feel if you buy it in the green. Set your orange level, which is like your neutral price point where you'd be happy to buy it. And then set your red level where you just simply will not go over. It's done. When you get into that negotiation that you are there, don't go past that red point. Don't get forced into a position where it's just like, hey, look, I'm now past it. I'm buying this well above what I think is true value because I'm in it now. I'm here. May as well just get it done. I see a lot of people get into that sort of circumstance, the emotional circumstance. But if you clear it up and just focus on numbers and give yourself these sort of frameworks, goalposts to work within, that gives you sort of the opening offer, the negotiation point where you're comfortable with, and your highest offer, your walk-away price. Walk away if it doesn't suit you. Be realistic with those numbers. Don't go putting it into a spreadsheet like, hey, it's a $500,000 property. I'm going to put 420 here.
Yeah.
You're never going to get a deal done. The whole point of this podcast is to help you get a deal done. Be realistic with your numbers and adjust to comparables and adjust to timing. So if you're buying in Perth, don't look at comparables from 12 months ago. They're 20, 30% off. Like, look at comparables today or uplift by percentages to reflect the fast changing market that's already occurred in these locations.
Yeah. And I think that's really good advice. And it's like I say, you kind of accommodate those other things. And if you're in a really, really hot market like Perth, you can put in your kind of green offer, and you have to if you're going to put in your green level offer, you've got to throw in every other carrot you possibly can along with it. Like, I'm prepared to go unconditional. I don't need anything. Like, if you will actually sell me this property for this purchase price, like, I will sign it tonight or sign it, in the next 5 minutes.
Yep.
That's kind of necessary in hot markets. In slow markets, it's a bit different, but in hot markets, if you're going to go low on price, you have to offer something else that the agent can go back to the seller and be like, look, we can get something done, because you don't know necessarily what the seller's motivations are and what kind of position they're in. So by covering off those other things, you might actually be giving the seller something of value to them.
Yeah, exactly. The one final point I want to add to this is we have an obsession with off-market deals. And yes, a lot of deals are done in off-market categories, and a lot of the great buyers agents have access to off-market stock. It's so good. The service they provide, the level of uplifting that they provide at the industry, the mere fact that we can have this podcast, talk about all the data frameworks, what works, what doesn't. It's buyers agents really improving the nature of the property industry and helping people create wealth through property. That's the brilliant thing that they've got working for them. They also, if you're working with the best buyers agents, we work with a couple groups who are absolutely fantastic at what they do. So much respect. Team Investor Kit's a really good example. They're brilliant at what they do. They have access to people and to agents. You're not going to see everything. That's the reality. Like, you just got to give that up. Like, if you're an individual buyer trying to do this yourself, give it up. Don't be like, that person has bought a property off market and I want that specific property. Be like, some deals will just be snapped up by people bigger than you. You just got to accept that. That's okay. It's not a bad outcome for you. Just remember, if you're following this sort of strategy, there are dozens of deals, hundreds of deals out there. So you just need one specific one to go and make it happen for you. So bear that in mind. And for you to find off-market deals, you can find them just as easily too. Develop those relationships. Once you've got those relationships and you've found something that you want to buy, ask the agent. Be like, these are my broad parameters. What conversations have you been having? What doors have you knocked on and been through? What conversations have you had at the dinner table where someone is like arming and eyeing, I think I might get my house appraised. How many of those have you done? Can you show me a few of those? Because I'm interested in a deal like this. And then if you can be kind, respectful to them, they will give you that information, because this is a deal that they're not going to get done without you. They have a potential seller, not an actual seller, and they have an actual buyer. And if they marry that two together, then they get paid income that they weren't going to get paid. So you can actually access product this way. Recent example of this, we were looking at an owner-occupier, and we just wanted very specific properties. Our criteria was so set. We were like, this is all I want. So I literally gave one agent, a friend, someone who I've developed a relationship with a number of years, the list. Get me one of these 6 properties, right? Like, you can get one of these. When I knocked on all the doors, I couldn't find a deal to get done, but he'd already been through most of them and said, this one's been there for 70 years, this one's been there for 35 years, this one's not leaving. It's in an area where people don't leave, people don't want to sell, so there's no deal there. But timing and you can mirror each other at some point. If you have more and more fires out there and more conversations like this, then that's how you find off-market deals. Build relationships, ask them to show you, and they will show you. And you can mirror that up. Ask them, what do you have available? What doors have you knocked on? Where have you sat with? What appraisals have you done? And will they take an offer like this? Do your research, do all your comparable analysis, do all your CMAs, do all your deal making on that and be like, yes, I'm happy to offer this price for this property. It's off market. Can you see if they'll accept it? That's a way to get a deal done.
Yeah.
Cool.
That sounds pretty good.
Let's wrap it up.
Go make some offers.
Yeah, we've covered it. The art of the deal, the full negotiation process, how to get ready, how to do everything you need to do to be a preferred bidder, how to use all of the information asymmetries out there between you and them, how to put yourself in the vendor's shoes and in the real estate agent's shoes to make your offers more and more attractive, being as clear as you can, and how to get off-market deals too. And the importance of property managers as your eyes and ears on the ground in getting deals done.